What's going on? Second video coming at you as requested on Instagram by a few of you. Diet made easy. Let's do this.
I've been waiting for the world to spin my way. I've been waiting for a glance at the sun. And I've been waiting for the world to spin my way. I've been waiting for a chance, and I think it's finally come. 'Cause after all, I don't care what they do, and I don't care what they know, and I don't care what they say about me now. No one can touch me now. I'm just flying by. Yeah, I'm just flying by, away from them. And no one can see me now. I'm miles above you. Don't care what they're saying below, 'cause I'm miles above. I'm miles above you. Miles above you.
So let's get into it. So I put on Instagram the other day a poll to give you the option to choose between what topics you wanted me to cover. This one that you've chosen, Diet Made Easy, how to structure and devise your own diet plan, follows on from the previous video, actually two videos that I've put up recently following on from the other nutritional videos. The one I recently put up on YouTube, which was my weekly food shop, and the one which I put up on my Instagram feed, which was involving is diet just as simple as calories in versus calories out. This is a good one to follow on from that, because obviously there's a lot of people that are coming unstuck, and there's a lot of people with a lot of bad habits when it comes to diet, and a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions on what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, and all that kind of thing. So this is just a video to kind of simplify and kind of put into perspective on why I think it's easy and how I think you should be devising your own diet plans if, for example, it isn't within your financial budget to kind of hire someone who can do it for you. First things first, what you need to understand is that basically that calories are present in food, and calories are basically quantified by energy. So think of it as fuel. So food for your body is as petrol would be to a car, so that's what makes you run. But on top of that, there is other things that you need to consider, things like so to put it into the concept of a car, you've got to consider things like brake fluid, engine oil, your electric systems and all that kind of thing. If one of them fails, chances are you're not getting the optimal function out of the whole thing. So when it comes to diet and nutrition, what you need to think about is making sure that you've got everything locked on. Are you providing your body with the right nutrients, the right supplies of proteins, carbs, fats, everything, to make sure that you're running optimally. So obviously different food sources do different things. So you've got your main macronutrients, which are your proteins, your carbs and your fats. You've got your micronutrients, which are like your fibre, your vitamins and all that kind of thing. It's important to kind of understand what each one does and what role it plays in your body. So we'll just cover the first one, which is protein. Everyone kind of thinks and understands that protein kind of builds muscle, yeah, which is essentially what it does. So proteins are present in the body to be able to allow us to build and repair muscle tissue. So you get that through meat, fish, nuts, eggs, all that kind of thing. Carbs, secondly, the dreaded carb. A lot of people are obviously scared of carbs, which is a common misconception. Carbs aren't bad for you. Carbs are bad for you when you start to overeat them in too much quantity, which a lot of people do. Me myself included. When I was younger, I used to think I was eating really healthy because I was eating lots of sweet potatoes, I was eating loads of rice, pasta, all that kind of thing, when really it was a portion control that was a problem. It wasn't what I was putting in. So typically what I would do, or what my family would do, we would get a plate and they'd fill it, and what we'd do is we would fill it with rice, and then lay like a small amount of chicken on top with your veg and all that kind of thing. What you want to kind of do is, if you're not wanting to weigh your food and all that kind of thing, you want to be able to portion control what you're putting on your plate. So you want to be getting a good amount of protein, so maybe in each meal, so for example a chicken breast, something like that. You want to plate your meat and your veg up first, which should take up the majority of your plate, and then the rest should be your carb source. But carbs on a whole are basically the body's primary use and source of energy. Fats, again, important in the body. Need to make sure we're getting them to make sure that we're regulating our temperature properly, we're keeping our body healthy and all that kind of thing. From there, what I'm going to advise you to do is then kind of get an idea of what your priorities are, what your goal is. Without goals, you're not really sure where you want to end up. So how do you really quantify how far you've come or where you're going if you don't know where you want to get to? I'd advise you give yourself a target, maybe a short-term target and a long-term target. If you keep surpassing your short-term goals, then obviously increase them. So for example, for me, my goal is to get stage lean. I want to be getting ready for stage by the 18th of May. My short-term goals are just to continue pressing in the gym, to continue to maintain strength, if not gain strength, which I am doing at the minute, to keep hitting my rep ranges and training to absolute failure each session. But on a whole, what you want to do is you want to try and get yourself a goal. Is your goal fat loss? Is it muscle gain? Is it overall weight loss? Is it to get in competition shape? All these things are going to have different requirements in terms of diet and nutrition. You're going to have to make some sacrifices along the way if you do kind of have a more extreme end goal. So put it like this, if obviously me, I don't get any sort of what you consider treat food really. The majority of my food is what you would consider a bodybuilder's type diet. Things like potatoes, rice, chicken, lean minced salmon, eggs, greens, all that kind of thing. However, if your goal is just overall weight loss or overall fat loss, there is room for compromise when it comes to things like chocolate, maybe the occasional piece of junk food, all that kind of thing. After all, when it comes to diet, the main things are adherence and consistency. So what I'd advise you to do is then not necessarily restrict yourself 100%, maybe give yourself 80-20 or 85-15, but again, that completely depends on your ability to control your cravings and that kind of thing. So when it comes to diet, obviously, and you've decided on the foods that you like and you don't like, because what you want to do is obviously avoid the foods that you don't like. You don't want to necessarily force yourself to eat foods that you're not going to enjoy, because at the end of the day you're just going to give up halfway through. You're going to want to give yourself the best opportunity to kind of stick at it for a prolonged period of time. Things might get monotonous when it comes to that kind of thing, but overall the end product is going to be a lot better if you can stick to something. And look at it like that. If you are working off an 80-20 kind of split, then you're allowing yourself them cheats. You're allowing yourself that kind of enjoyment as well. So the whole monotonous thing, it really then links back to what your goals are and how much you want it. Are you willing to sacrifice maybe having that biscuit with your cup of tea at the end of the night for the overall end goal of kind of succeeding at what you wanted to do? So once all that's set in stone, you've kind of decided the foods you like, what you want to include, what you think you're going to be able to stick to over a prolonged period, then what you need to consider is your overall output, your job, your availability in terms of how often you can get to the gym, how long you spend exercising, that kind of thing. After all, it is a matter of energy balance. So are you expending more calories because you're a bricklayer or whatever, are you a scaffolder, are you up and down ladders all the time, are you in a job that requires you to sit behind a desk and look at a TV screen or a computer screen for 8 hours a day? If you are, then the chances are you're expending a lot less energy, which in turn means unfortunately you're either going to have to move more when you're not at work so that you can eat more, or you're just going to have to eat less. That's just something you're going to have to get over. So again, once you've quantified how much you're expending, what you want to eat, all that kind of thing, then we can move on to the next point. Now, for argument's sake, that I'm targeting this video at someone who has a general goal, long-term goal of fat loss. So they have, say for example, 12 weeks to before they go on holiday. They've got a little bit of excess body fat that they want to get rid of. They want to maintain what muscle mass they have, all that kind of thing, while slowly reducing body fat. However, they're in a sedentary job where they sit behind a desk, they take phone calls all day, and they look at a laptop screen, so they don't really move for the first 8 hours a day. They get up at half 6, get ready for work, set off at half 7, and they're at work for 9. Typically for the first 8 hours of the day, what you would then kind of see is that they aren't going to need much energy to function in that role. Obviously, to a certain extent, you've got to consider the fact that they've got to function in terms of like thinking, thought processes, all that kind of thing. But in terms of like moving about and expending energy through movement and that kind of thing, then the food that they're going to be taking through the first portion of the day don't necessarily need to be that much. So what I would then do is kind of identify that. So if that applies to you, I'd maybe consider having a smaller breakfast, something that's easy digestible, something that's going to set you up for the first few hours of the day, but that isn't going to sit on your stomach and then unnecessarily get stored as fat because you're not using it. So for me, and for a few people that I know, then an example of that would be something good and high in protein, something half decent in terms of fats as well. So keeping the carbs on the minimum. Maybe a protein shake and some nuts, or maybe a egg white omelette with some veg, maybe with an egg or two thrown in there. If you want to be able to feel full, but without the breakfast being too calorie dense, then maybe an omelette or something like that with one or two eggs and a few egg whites would be an option for you there. Again, dinner breaks and stuff like that, gonna want to try and start setting yourself up for the rest of the day. So you want to maybe try and drip feed a little bit of carbs in there, maybe have some fruit, and some sort of protein bar, something like that, something with a little bit of carbs in there, nothing major. Something that's just going to kind of fill a hole for that kind of period of time. Obviously this is going to depend on your job role again, but for the sake of this video, I am kind of focusing on this type of person. Obviously, again, this is going to apply to people that have a fairly decent amount of time to be able to eat. I personally eat 7 meals a day because I have a lot of time through the day to be able to focus on that. I don't really have any restrictions in terms of food prep. I can prep at night and then I just have it there and it's done. Trip it in the microwave throughout the day whenever I have a spare minute and I eat them. For someone again in this job who might not necessarily have an understanding manager or something like that, might have to stick to their break times and all that kind of thing. So for example, say we had a morning break at work, again like I said, you'd have your breakfast, you'd have your first morning break or whatever, something you could just quickly throw down, even if it's just at your desk, like some fruit and a protein bar or whatever. Dinner time, I'd then consider maybe having something a little bit bigger, choosing from sauces again that you're going to enjoy. So maybe, for example, I like to keep things simple with rice, potatoes, pasta. Everyone loves pasta at the end of the day, come on. So choose one of those carb sauces. You want to feel that, you want to have a little bit of that, you want to make sure you have a protein sauce, some sort of chicken, turkey, lean steak, mint. I tend to stick to the white sauces, so like your white fish, your chicken, your turkey before workouts, because they tend to be quicker digesting, so that they get in and then you can make better use of them for the workouts throughout the day. So yeah, have a good protein sauce, get a decent amount for whatever you'd consider, maybe a handful of chicken or something, and maybe a chicken breast, whatever. Fill the plate with veg around that, so some broccoli, greens, anything really, and then have your carb sauce again on the side of that. Just as a general rule of thumb, for anyone who's wondering about how much protein to take, typically what you want to stick to is somewhere between 1 and 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. Again, it's going to depend on what and how you're training. For me, it tends to be towards the higher range. It tends to be between 1.4, 1.5, but that's me on a high protein bodybuilder's diet. Anyone in normal circumstances is probably going to be anywhere between 1 and 1.2. So that set you up nice and easy for the day, for your work day. Typically, what I'd like to then do is now start to get ready and start thinking about your workout. If you're one of these people who likes to get it done straight after work, I'd advise to leave maybe an hour between your last meal and training. So if you're going to get home from work at 5:30, you try and eat then, and then maybe go to the gym at like 6:30. If you want to go straight from work, then try and put your food in maybe on the journey home, and then by the time you get home, change whatever to the gym, then it's ready to be utilised for that session. So the pre-workout meal, this is where you want to start putting the majority of your carb sources. You want to up that a little bit so that you can better use the energy provided from it to endure your workout. I personally also take intra-workout carbs at the minute, which is a drink, which is so I just get a constant steady flow of carbohydrates throughout my workout. So again, this meal needs to be high in protein, needs to have some sort of carbs and a small amount of fat. For me, my pre-workout meal is at the minute 250 grams of chicken, 190 grams of cooked rice and veg. So for you, again, choose something that you're going to enjoy, pasta, rice, whatever it is you might like. Another protein source, again, something easily digestible, usually a white meat, as per the meal before. So once you finish your workout and all that kind of thing, this is where it comes to that old kind of debate of whether there is a window of opportunity where you need to eat in order to avoid going into a catabolic state, which basically means if you don't eat within a certain amount of time, is your workout going to be wasted? Are you going to be wasting muscle tissue by not replenishing your stores, basically? There is science to prove it, there's science against it, whatever. It's going to be a constant debate, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. For me, what I tend to do is I usually wait about 45 minutes, which again is probably outside of the window compared to some of the studies that say it should be within a 20 to 30 minute window. But like I said, I also have a carbohydrate source straight through my workout, so it's not too much of a hassle for me. But yeah, just wherever you feel comfortable, really, as long as you're getting your calories in throughout the day, you're keeping them steady, you're keeping them regular, you ain't gonna see a noticeable difference anyway. It's probably not on the list of your priorities in order to kind of get food in as soon as you get home. But again, this meal is going to be another calorie dense meal. It's going to be probably the biggest meal of the day. I would then advise to also have a good source of protein, a significantly more amount of carbs, and again small amount of fats with your veg in that as well. This is where I like to play around with it. So typically you've spent a lot of energy in the gym, you've had a good workout, and your glycogen stores are low, which you need to then replenish through carbs. So what I do is, and what I'm going to advise you to do is, put all them things together, make a nice meal. So for example, a spaghetti bolognese, if that's what you like. Starchy carbs, again, anything from potato, rice, pasta, couscous, anything like that would be sufficient. On top of that, then what I like to do is have a bowl of cereal, so I have Cocoa Pops. Again, depending on your goal, if you know that you're training to your absolute potential, oi, shut up. If you know that you're pushing yourself to your limits and you know that you're absolutely banging with your diet throughout the day and you're not going to cheat and all that kind of thing, there's nothing wrong with having what you would consider then that little bit of enjoyment food. Cocoa Puffs for me is kind of almost like a cheat meal. I kind of consider it like that. So at the end of the day, it's basically just puffed rice. It's just rice. And if you check the nutrition on it, it's pretty much nothing. It's high in carbs, low in fat, which is exactly what you need for the workout. So towards the end of the day, what I would then like to do is kind of leave a little bit of time and a little bit of space for, again, a higher fat meal. If you want to include things like chocolate in your diet, or for me, I like nut butter, this is the time to kind of get it in now. Fats release slower in the body, so as the later in the day when you eat them, they release throughout the night, so that when you're up in the morning, you then do have that kind of energy boost in the morning without the extra carbohydrates kind of sitting on your body and potentially storing themselves as unwanted body fat. So a potential end of the day meal would maybe be some natural yogurt with some fruit, strawberries, blueberries, pineapple for example, a spoon of peanut butter and 2 squares of dark chocolate, which maybe would have to be a 70% or more. So yeah, that's typically what I would consider a fairly straightforward diet. So with all things considered, on a whole, what I kind of want anyone to take away from this is diet does differ dependent on the person and the goal in which they want to achieve. Like I said, this video has kind of been based on a fairly sedentary person, with the overall target of fat loss. If there's anything to take away from this video to these points, what I need you to do is consider your output, consider the job you're in, consider the amount of time you spend on your feet. Maybe it's worth tracking your NEAT output, which is basically how much energy you expend throughout the day through like passive movement. So like, counting your steps is a good way to monitor that. I personally like to hit 10,000 steps. So yeah, if you're a fairly sedentary person, do you need carbs early in the morning? If you aren't a sedentary person who has a fairly active job, then I would advise you to have a carb dense breakfast. Just because you've got more energy expenditure, so you're going to need that little bit more food than any other person. This is going to take honesty from you as the individual to kind of identify how much food you're really allowed. It's going to take a while to kind of let you get used to and understanding your body. Through trial and error, it's going to be a good idea to kind of get used to kind of listening, taking on how you feel after certain foods, what your energy's like, what your sleep's like, all that kind of thing. So yeah, kind of be honest in the respect that if you don't move much, then you're going to have to eat less. If you move more, then don't be scared to eat more. Number 2, make sure each meal is balanced. So you're going to have a good range of protein, carbs, fats. Again, dependent on your job, these will be spaced out in different places throughout the day. Each meal should be high in protein. Carbs should be utilised in and around workouts and specific times of the day, dependent on when and how much energy you're expending. Keep the meats around workouts as a white meat. Like I mentioned before, these are more easily digested and they get into the system quicker, which is then in turn going to be able to help boost your energy levels for workouts and all that kind of thing. Fats to be left and centered around the start and end of the day, just because these are typically lower, slower acting in terms of digestion. 3, allow yourself a percentage of food that you enjoy. So again, it all goes back to honesty. What you then need to kind of do is kind of accept the fact and understand whether you're going to allow yourself those cheat meals on a daily basis, or you're going to limit to do a cheat meal a weekend. After all, I said it before and I'll say it again, it's all about adherence. If you're going to cheat and you're going to go off your diet, then the chances are you aren't going to make the progress that you want to make. So therefore, be careful, be honest with yourself, allow yourself a little bit of room to play with. One thing to consider is, are you gonna allow yourself what you would consider or call a trigger food? For me, I don't really have any trigger foods. I don't really get any cravings unless it's there in front of me, which I know is similar for most people. For me, on a diet, if I come in and someone's making pizza or someone's making something that smells like garlic or something like that, it sets me off and it makes me want to eat bad food. But obviously, to a certain degree, I just distance myself from that, and then therefore I avoid the situation. So for you, I'd advise you do the same. If there's something that's going to make you want to cheat, then don't eat it, and keep those type of foods out of your diet completely. which then takes us on to the last point, and which is the most important one. Remain consistent. So for the 8-12 weeks or whatever it is, the best thing you can do is just stick to it. You need to be relentless in terms of just not cheating, just staying away from it. The whole idea of, oh, one biscuit won't matter, or one day I forgot my meal prep so I'll just get Subway instead, and then that turns into 2 or 3 days because you can't be asked. It's all a snowball effect. The sooner you get out of the habit of cheating, and the sooner you just get over the initial kind of patch of wanting bad food, the easier it's going to be for you to stick to it. And overall, again, small steps end up in a long distance. So small victories all add up to a big victory in the end. So each day that you remain consistent throughout the week, if you've done really well, and then maybe consider allowing yourself a cheat, get back to it, and from then just keep repeating this. Week by week, kind of make a note of how you're progressing. Are you visually, are you statistically reaching or getting closer to your goal? If you're not, then consider pulling back or adjusting what you're eating or what you're expending, and just keep doing that across however many weeks it is until your goal. Any other questions on the topic, let me know. And I hope the content that I'm putting out is instructional, is educational. If it is, and you're finding any value from it whatsoever, I'd appreciate it if you like it. Leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel. And I'm not just saying that trying to get followers, I just kind of want to know whether what I'm putting out is worthwhile, if anyone's taking anything away from it. So I'd appreciate any feedback, good or bad. Subscribe to the channel. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, which is @BradLawrence with 2 E's at the end. I'll tag everything in the description below. Thanks for taking the time to watch. I appreciate it.